Open your Bibles and pull out your message notes. We're in this series that I've been calling Unshakable, Thriving in the Tests of Life, and we've been looking at the life of Daniel. Now, we're going to pick up where we ended out last time, that Daniel has outlasted a couple of different kings, and actually he's now an old man. As we start chapter 6, Daniel is about 82 years old. We've looked at many of the tests that he went through as a teenager, and he passed all those tests, and he kept getting promoted. And then in the 20s and 30s, he had some other tests that he went through, and he passed those tests, and he keeps getting promoted. And then later on in his years of the 50s and the 40s, 50s, 60s, he has some more tests. And now we come to his later years, and even as an old man, and he's not through. He's going to do his greatest work at 85 years of age. Now let's pick up where we were last time, where there's a change of kingdom. The Babylonian Empire had crushed the Assyrian Empire, and now the Persian Empire has crushed the Babylonian. And so Daniel's got a new boss again, and it's changed. Well, let's watch this on the screen. The Bible says this in Daniel 5:29. King Belshazzar, remember, that was the guy who had the writing on the wall. Remember him? Okay, King Belshazzar, he was the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. He was the emperor of Babylon. He promoted Daniel to be the third highest ruler in his kingdom. Now, that's the shortest promotion on record, because it says, but that very night, King Belshazzar was killed by Darius the Mede, who took over the kingdom at the age of 62. So now the Medes and the Persians have come over, and they've taken over. This is modern-day Iraq, and it's taken over by modern-day Iran. The Persians have taken over the Babylonians. And so there's a new king, there's a new empire. And usually when you have a new administration, you clean house. And everybody who was serving the previous guy, they're all gone. But Daniel is such a man of character that they keep him in the new kingdom. And Darius the Mede, who has sacked Babylon and has become now the new king, says, I'm keeping that guy. I'm keeping that guy. In fact, he puts him as one of the three governors over all of the empire that they're now running. Now, why did this guy, Daniel, just keep getting promoted over and over and over? We see this all through his life. I don't really have time to cover this, but it's in the text, so I'm going to give you the fill-ins. So write this, and then we're going to get to the real message here. If you are interested in being promoted at work, you need to study this text, because there are three reasons Daniel kept getting promoted at work. Number one, his professional competence made him stand out. His professional competence made him stand out. He was a gifted leader, and he never stopped learning. And there's a lot to say about that, but I'm not going to say about it. Number two, his personal character made him stand out. He was not just gifted in abilities, he was a good guy. And the Bible tells us that he was honest, and he was reliable, and he was hardworking, and he was incorruptible, and they couldn't find anything to attack in his character. And then the third reason that he stood out was because of his public commitment to God. And this is the secret sauce in Daniel's life. He's very open and very public about his faith and his commitment to God. And everybody knew where Daniel stood. He prayed in public. He prayed over his meals. He prayed at home in public. And the Bible tells us in Daniel chapter 6, verse 5, that his co-workers concluded, our only chance of finding any grounds to get rid of Daniel will be to find something to accuse in his religious practices. They couldn't find anything wrong with this guy. Now, here's the scene. New emperor Darius. He appoints three guys to be the governors over the empire. One of them's Daniel. And under that, he appoints 120 administrators over provinces. These guys did not like Daniel. We don't know why, but maybe it was because of his faith. Maybe he was Jewish. Some of you have faced that kind of persecution, or at least prejudice at work. That there are people at work who scheme against you. They want your office. They want you canned. They want you sacked. They want you out of there, maybe just because of what you believe. And so these administrators, they're actually called satraps in that period. These satraps set a trap to get Daniel. And they're saying, okay, we don't want this guy being our boss. We don't want this guy being our supervisor. He's just too good, and we're jealous of him. He's not even from our area. He's Jewish. And so they're trying to trap him, and they said the only way we're going to be able to trap him is going to be something to do with his religion. And in Daniel chapter 6, verse 6 to 9, here's the plan they come up with. So the officials who wanted Daniel removed from office, they go to the king. Now the king likes Daniel because he's appointed him. Went to the king and said, King Darius, live forever. You know, they're schmoozing this guy. Live forever. Now, we've convened everybody, and we all agree that for the next 30 days, everybody should pray to you. Now, this is appealing to the king's ego. They're going, we got this idea. Why are they making this law up? Because they know the one guy who won't obey it will be Daniel. And so they think, well, now we've got a trap. And so they say to the king, everybody's going to worship you for 30 days, this new king. The guys go, hey, sounds like a good idea. You are the man, you are the man. And so then it goes on and it says, and we think that you should issue an edict saying that anybody who disobeys your order by praying to anyone else besides you will be tossed into the pit where your lions are kept. Have you ever heard of Daniel in the lion's den? That's this story, okay? And so it said, anybody who doesn't pray to the emperor, we're going to make this rule, they're going to be thrown into the lions, they'll be eaten to death. And he said, let's put this decree in writing so it can't be altered or repealed according to the laws of the Medes and the Persians. So that's exactly what King Darius did. Now, what's going on here? The Medes and the Persians had a rule that if you made a law, it could never be rescinded. It could never be repealed. It could never be revoked. Even if the king made it, the king could not revoke it. So they're going, okay, here's how we're going to get rid of this Daniel guy. We don't like this guy. He's too good. He makes us look bad. And so what we're going to do is we'll get a rule that we know he won't keep because of his faith, and we'll get it in writing so then even the king can't revoke it because the king actually likes Daniel. And so that's exactly what they did. What are these guys doing? They're so desperate to get rid of Daniel that they pass a national law just for one guy's benefit, or their benefit, for one guy's hurt. Now, how does Daniel respond to this rule? He hears about the rule, and he's got a lot of options. I wrote down some of the options he could have done. When he hears, okay, for the next 30 days, you can't pray to anybody. You can't pray to your own God. You can only pray to the emperor. You can only pray to the king. So here's some possibilities. He could accept the law and just fake pray to the king for 30 days. He could go around and publicly protest with picket signs, will not pray, will not pray. That's not going to do any good because it's not a democracy. In our country, you can change the laws, but this is a law that's now been passed. You can't change it. So all the protest isn't going to work. He could appeal privately to the king. Remember, the king liked him so much, he put him over 1/3 of the kingdom, and he said he did such a good job. He said, I'm going to put him over the entire kingdom. And that's when the people got jealous. They're going to put Daniel over the whole kingdom? No, we got to get him out of there. And so he could have gone to the king and said, hey, king, we're buds here. Can you cut me some slack? I'm Jewish. I worship the one true God. But he doesn't do that. How about this? He could just keep praying to his God, to the real God, but just do it in secret. And some of you think, well, why not? That's okay. If you're in a place and all of a sudden it's illegal to pray, you can just still pray in secret. And yes, Daniel could have done that, but his enemies would have still won. Because the whole purpose of this law was to make this one guy, Daniel, pull back on his faith, to be embarrassed by it, to be ashamed of God, and to not be public about his faith. Daniel chapter 6, verse 10, 11 says this. When Daniel learned that the new law had been signed, he went home and knelt down to pray, as usual. So it's his custom. He does it. This is what he normally does. He goes home, he kneels down, he prays in his upstairs room with the windows wide open toward Jerusalem. So anybody can see him praying. He's not doing this in secret. And he prayed 3 times a day, just as he had always done his entire life, thanking and praising God. So he's not going to back down on what he does. And it says, so Daniel's enemies went together to Daniel's house to catch him praying and asking God for help. And of course, he knew this was going to happen. They knew it was going to happen. It's the whole reason they did this. Now, why did Daniel do this? Why was he unafraid of this law? He goes, what I know I'm about to do, I'm going to be penalized for it. In fact, I could lose my life. I'm going to be thrown into a pit with a bunch of lions. This is capital punishment for what I'm doing, praying in public. I know many of you use the Daily Hope Devotionals as part of your regular Bible study, and so I want to share some exciting news. We've put 365 of the best devotionals into a brand new book that we're calling the Daily Hope Devotional, Purpose, Peace, and Promise for Every Day. This devotional book is designed with clear, practical, biblical teaching to help you make knowing God your number one priority. I believe it will help you stay focused on God throughout the day as He provides you with real purpose, lasting peace, and His unfailing promises. Imagine starting every day like that. This book is a great way to share the hope you have in Jesus with your friends, co-workers, and relatives. I hope you'll get a copy for everyone you know.
Be sure and request your copy when you partner with Daily Hope to take the Word of God to a hurting world.
Now, why was Daniel fearless? Why was he unafraid to stand out at work? Why was he afraid to speak up for God at work? Well, I studied this text, and let me give you 3 summary statements. Write these down. And if you want to have courage at work, you need to know these 3 things. If you want to stand out at work and you want to speak up for God at work, you need to know how Daniel did it. Number 1, he remembered that God was faithful in past tests. He remembered that God was faithful in past tests. And what I mean by that is through his entire life, he looked back and goes, every time I've gone through one of these tests or threats, I trust God and God takes care of me. When I was a teenager, I said, I can't eat that kind of food. I have to eat kosher food. And God took care of him. When they in the previous king said, you got to bow down before this golden idol or you get thrown in the furnace. He said, we're going to have to trust God. And they trusted God and God took care of them. And when he had to deliver bad messages to previous kings and say, sorry, your time's up, you're going to die tonight. Nobody wants to tell a king you're going to die tonight. But he told them the truth, letting the chips fall where they may be, and God took care of him every time. When you start to feel frightened and think, I can't talk about God at work. I can't talk about God at school. Because other people may get threatened or they may threaten me and I could lose my job and I could lose my house or I could lose my promotion or I could lose my friends or reputation or whatever. You need to remember how God has been faithful to you in the past. The second reason he was fearless is because he had a conversation with God 3 times a day. That's what that verse just said. It says that he would kneel down to pray as usual in his upstairs room, windows wide open, and he prayed 3 times a day, just as he'd always done his entire life. Okay, he has a conversation with God 3 times a day. Do you think if you talk to God 3 times a day, every day of your life for 82 years, that might make you more bold? Yeah. You think if you had that kind of, you had a conversation with God 3 times a day, for your entire life, you think that would make you more confident, less worried about what other people think, less worried about the disapproval of other people? Yes, absolutely. Now, I'm going to give you a sentence right now that if you don't get anything else I say this weekend, this is the message summarized. The key to standing strong is kneeling often. You might write that down. The key to standing strong is to kneel often. The more you pray, the more confidence you're going to have. As a woman, as a man, at work, at school, when you are called to do the right thing, and you go, everybody's against it, but it's the right thing to do. The more you kneel, the more you'll stand strong. Daniel had a conversation with God 3 times a day. That gave him his strength. And then there was a third reason why Daniel wasn't worried about this. He'd been through all these tests. He was talking to God every day. And the third reason is he knew that the rewards were greater than the risks. The rewards of doing the right thing were greater than the risks. Now, was it risky for him to disobey the law? Of course. Was there a punishment? Yes. Was he actually thrown in the pit? Yes. God could have kept him out of the pit of lions, but he allowed him to go and then shut the lion's mouth, which was the bigger miracle. Now listen, there's some problems you would like God to keep you out of, but God's going to let you go into those problems, and then he's going to solve them in a miraculous way, and there's more glory for him in that. He's not going to keep you out of every problem. He's going to put you sometimes in the pit. Some of you are in the pit right now. Some of you could put names on your lions. The people who are trying to devour you, the people trying to eat you up, the people who are trying to, ruin your life. They don't like you for whatever reason. You're in the pit, or you're facing a bunch of hungry lions who want to, eat your lunch. And God often will not keep you away from, he'll let you go in the pit, and then he'll do the miracle of shutting the mouths of the lions, which is an even bigger miracle. But there were rewards to doing the right thing, but there were also risks. But Daniel knows the rewards are greater than any risks. Now, most people I know deal with fear their entire lives. You have secret fears you don't want anybody else to know about. There's certain things that make your heart palpitate, that make you go into sweat, that you go into a panic. How do you deal and defeat a controlling fear in your life? Here's the key. Anytime you want to defeat a controlling fear in your life, Daniel has this fear, hey, I could be eaten by lions, but he obviously isn't worried about it. What you do is you minimize the potential problems or the potential negatives in this risk, and you maximize the positive benefits of it, of doing the right thing, even when you're scared to death. Let me say that again. One of the ways you deal with fear in life is when you're afraid to do something, and you start to think, but this could happen, and this could happen, and this could happen, and this could happen, and what if, and what if, and what if. That's the potential negatives. And you spend all your time focusing on that, you're just going to become more and more and more fearful. You have to mentally choose to shift your focus from the potential negatives to minimize the potential negatives, to maximize the benefits of doing the right thing. If I do the right thing, even though I'm scared to do it, what are going to be the benefits of it? And when you focus on that, it dramatically lowers your fear. Now, for that reason, what I want to do this weekend is talk to you about 6 benefits. You may have never thought of these. 6 benefits that happen in your life every time you stand strong for God in the face of opposition, at work, at school, or anywhere else. 6 things that happen to your life for good when you do the right thing instead of giving in to your fears. All right, let's look at these. Number 1, and we'll learn all of these in the life of Daniel. The first benefit is this. Every time I do the right thing, I stand for God, I stand for truth, I stand for morality and ethics and good things. Everything, standing for God is a victory over fear. Standing for God is a victory over fear. And that is one of the biggest controlling factors in your life. If you can get victory over fear, you're going to be fearless. You're going to be amazing. You can do things that other people will never be able to do because most people are in a prison of self-imposed fear. And they think, I can't do this because of this, and this, and this, and this. What is fear? Fear is false evidence appearing real, F-E-A-R. It's not real. It's fearful. In fact, the fear is always bigger than the reality. A lot of times you're afraid of, what's in that closet, and you open the closet, it's not a boogeyman, it's a teddy bear. The fear is always worse than reality because the reality doesn't last a long time, but the fear can keep going on and on and on if you allow it to keep coming into your life. And you keep thinking about it, thinking about it, and thinking about it, and you can make yourself miserable. And you know, if you have an event that's out there in the future and you're afraid, I'm going to be so nervous at that event, and then you spend a year getting nervous about it, and you ruin an entire year when that event would only be maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Now, there's a lot I could say about this, but let me just give you a few pointers. Write these down. Number one, fear is just a feeling, and it cannot last. Fear is just a feeling, and it cannot last. By their very nature, every feeling is temporary. Every emotion is temporary. No emotion can last, whether it's good or bad. Does happiness last? No. See, when you are having a particular feeling, you think, I'm going to feel this way the rest of my life, but you're not. You're not going to feel that way the rest of your life because no feeling can last forever. They're just temporary. They run out of steam. So if you're depressed and you feel depressed, you think, I'm going to be depressed the rest of your life. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're projecting in the future. You're taking a temporary feeling and projecting it as a permanent lifestyle. I'll always be depressed. No, you won't. If you feel guilty, I'm always, no, you won't. If you have grief, I'm always going to be in grief. No, you won't. Every emotion is temporary, whether it's anger or whether it's joy, good or bad, happiness, sadness. When you say, I'm frustrated, I'll be frustrated the rest of my life. No, you won't. You just need to remember that you should not ever let your emotions control your decisions or control your commitments. And if you know the right thing to do at work, and you know to say the right thing at work, you say, well, I feel this way right now. The person who says, I just go by my feelings is manipulated by their moods. Your feelings lie to you all the time. They are F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real. And it feels real, but it's not real. It doesn't matter how you feel, only Jesus is real. And so the first thing I would say is if you want to stand for God, but you're afraid to take a stand for God at work, it's because you're listening to your feelings, and no feeling, fear is just a feeling, can't last forever. Here's the second thing. Fear is uncomfortable, but it won't kill me. Now, when you're afraid, you think it's going to kill you because your palms get sweaty and your heart starts pumping extra and you get a little shortness of breath and you feel a tightness in your chest and you feel like your world is spinning out of control and you start to panic and it feels like you're going to die, but you're not going to die. People don't die out of fear. It's uncomfortable to do something that's fearful, but it's not going to kill you. And once you've done it, the fear subsides. Here's another truth. Fear grows when I give in to it, but it lessens when I move against it. Fear grows when I give in to it, but it lessens when I move against it. If you keep giving into fear, like, I know I should make amends with that person, but I'm afraid to. I know I should ask forgiveness, but I'm afraid to. I know I should offer forgiveness, but I'm afraid to. I know I should do this. I know I should talk to that person about the Lord, but I'm afraid to. Every time you give in that fear, the fear gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and pretty soon it dominates your life. It keeps pushing you further and further back till you're cornered in a corner and you can't do anything with your life. Now, how do you get rid of that fear? You move against it. Fear does not respond to logic because it's illogical. It's false evidence appearing real. Fear does not respond to logic. The only way you get rid of fear is this: do the thing you fear the most. And when you do it, it starts to subside. You have to step into the Jordan River before the waters part, and then the waters part. God doesn't say, stand on the edge and keep saying, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid. God, part the waters, then I'll walk through. God says, no, you first. That's called faith. That's called faith. Will you trust me? I've told you this many times, that over 36 years at Saddleback, every single major decision in the history of this church, from when it was just Kay and me in an apartment, every single major decision, I was scared to death to do. But I did it anyway. Why? Because I'm not going to let fear dominate my life. Because I believe that we are to build our lives on great promises, principles, and great purposes, but not on great panic. And so you just do the thing you're afraid, and you know what? The fear goes away. You move against your fear. You do the thing you fear the most. What is it that you're most afraid of? Well, I'm afraid to talk to people about my faith. Why? Well, what will they think of me? I might lose my job. Are you kidding? Are the rewards worth the risks? You gotta think this one through. Anytime you let fear dominate your life gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But every time you stand firm, stand strong for God, and you move against your fear, the fears just kind of subside. They move away. I know many of you use the Daily Hope Devotionals as part of your regular Bible study, and so I want to share some exciting news. We've put 365 of the best devotionals into a brand new book that we're calling the Daily Hope Devotional, Purpose, Peace, and Promise for Every Day. This devotional book is designed with clear, practical, biblical teaching to help you make knowing God your number one priority. I believe it will help you stay focused on God throughout the day as He provides you with real purpose, lasting peace, and His unfailing promises. Imagine starting every day like that. This book is a great way to share the hope you have in Jesus with your friends, co-workers, and relatives. I hope you'll get a copy for everyone you know.
Be sure and request your copy when you partner with Daily Hope to take the Word of God to a hurting world.